Hi, my name is Matt Mulvaney and I work for a company called Pretius, and I'm going to teach you all about Application Express, which I believe is Oracle's best kept low-code secret. So a little bit about me and a few words about Pretius. So we are a team of over 110 IT experts and we are almost 30 Apex developers. Apex being the short form of Application Express. And Pretius offer outsourcing of remote teams and software development process. We're based in Warsaw, although we act globally. All our customers are spread out throughout the world, throughout Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas. And we have a team of Apex experts, and we are contributors to the Apex community as well. We have lots of Apex plugins. We're very proud to announce a suite of plugins. So Apex plugins are plugins which enhance the Apex native components. So it adds extra functionality to Apex. And we also build this popular translate apex.com website, which gives your applications a head start in translating your applications to multiple languages. Okay, so I'm going to start with Gartner's Magic Quadrant for enterprise low-code application platforms. So this is for enterprise only, and Apex appears on this grid. So you'll see, you may be familiar with low-code frameworks such as Power Apps from Microsoft, OutSystems and Mendix, Salesforce even, Appian. So you may be familiar with those. Those Gartner has identified as the leaders because they have a high completeness of vision and a high ability to execute. Now, a challenger to that is Apex from Oracle, although I expect in the future to see that moving over to the leaders section over there. Okay, so we're going to talk about Oracle and the low-code frameworks from Oracle. So Oracle, if you did not already know, they are a large multinational global company, historically specializing in database and RDBMS database. Now, this is at the heart of what they do, and year on year they're improving and coming out with new versions of the Oracle database. They also have lots more, well, countless really, tool sets, including JavaScript frameworks, cloud analytics. There's a whole cloud environment. There's toolkits. There's ERPs. There's all sorts in there. Two of those, however, are low-code frameworks. So Oracle Express and something else called Oracle Cloud Visual Builder Cloud Service. So this is called, for short, VBCS, and this is tied to some of Oracle's products, such as the Fusion middleware, and it allows you to extend that in a quite easy way. Although if I was building something from scratch or building something that was data-driven, I don't think there's any better tool than Oracle Application Express. So in a moment, I'll show you a demo of using Application Express, and this is the typical window which you would use to access Apex. And there's lots of buttons which help you develop and areas within the Apex framework that allows you to create applications. So if you want to try this out, you can go to apex.oracle.com and you can sign up for a free workspace. And a workspace is just a collection of applications, usually tied to one database schema, which is schema is one central place to access your data, although it can be assigned to multiple schemas. So if you go to this website, apex.oracle.com, the headline says you can build enterprise apps 20 times faster with 100 times less code. Now, who wouldn't want to build their applications 20 times faster? And you can achieve this because Apex gives you wizards to create native components just out of the box, and then you just spend your time customizing them, testing them, and you can concentrate more on functionality rather than the fine-grained elements of application development. And there's much less code to write with Apex. Apex has got a strong history, starting from a version 1.5 in 2004, where it was known as HTML-DB. In fact, before that, it was known as Flows and also went by the name of Project Marvel, but now it's called Application Express. So you can see throughout its history, it's had more and more versions. Now, I started with Apex in 2014. Before then, or even before 2004, I was working with the Oracle programming language called Oracle Forms, which is an older client-server um, way of developing applications. It's had some more modernizations, but Apex is a true web technology. And I worked till 2014 with Oracle Forms for 13 years, and then for the last 7 years, specializing exclusively with Oracle Application Express. So my first version around 2014 was Apex 4.2, and this was a good solid version, although they took some time out, 3 years approximately, to come up with version 5.0, which is a revolutionary change, and it came with the universal theme, which standardized the themes from them onwards, giving this accessibility and ability to render on multiple devices from small screens and to be responsive on tablets and large monitors. And there's also page design as well, where you spend most of your time developing your application. And then year on year, we're expecting one release until 2018, where 2 releases come out every year now. And the latest version, apologies, not on this slide, is 20.2. This is the version I'll be demoing to you in a moment. So if you want to install apex.oracle.com on premise, or indeed if you want to use it in the cloud, you will be using this RAD architecture. So you may be familiar with RAD in terms of rapid application development, but in terms of the architecture for an Apex application, the R stands for Oracle REST Data Services, or ORDS, or as I like to say, ORDS. So ORDS is like the middleware. It's the web server central for when you request a page. ORDS is responsible for asking the database for the page and rendering it back to the client. The A stands for Apex, or your Apex application, and your Apex application lives in the D, which stands for the database. So that would be the Oracle RAD stack. So a slide to explain that a little bit further. So all Apex applications are web applications. So you need a web browser, whether that's on a mobile device or a tablet or a PC. You would request the page from a URL. Now the URL has got a very standard structure. You would request through ORDS to the database. Now you can see Apex is living as a slice in that database. So Apex is a component of your database. You can download it from apex.oracle.com/download, and you can download ORDS as well. Okay, so the bottom slide is an example of the database. This is a 12C database. This could be a dedicated database or a PDB, which is a pluggable database. At the bottom, you've got SQL for queries, which you'll probably be familiar with. PL SQL is a procedural language SQL. So this allows for full development language around SQL statements. So you can execute commands row by row, for example, and it's extremely powerful. There is string manipulation, there's today there's loops, variables, calling web services, everything that you would expect from a programming language is available in PL SQL. And you can see Apex is slotting into that PL SQL engine in there. The main programming language behind Apex is PL SQL, although being a web page, you can enhance it with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, as you would expect. And the red oval shapes here are your schemas. So this is where your data lives, and Apex can access that data. And it can also access outside the database as well, which I'll show you in the demonstration. Okay, so where can you run Apex? Well, easiest place is Oracle Cloud, where they have these autonomous databases. So the Oracle autonomous databases are these elastic databases where you can, which scales up. It's self-driving, self-healing. it can repair, it can upgrade itself. And it comes in these two flavors, ATP, which is based for transaction processing, which is more or less where I see most Apex applications. And there's a data warehousing flavor as well. So for more query-driven Apex applications. So this is a common use of Apex for reporting on data. You can also run it in the new database cloud service. So it's like an Apex only service for a pretty reasonable fee. You can have a commercial application running on a database cloud service. You can also run it on premise or a private cloud. So really anywhere the database runs, you can run Apex, whether that will be a physical dedicated server, a virtualized machine, a Docker image, which is very popular with Apex developers. So with a Docker image, you can run it on your laptop. You can fire that up on the train, on the plane. I myself have done that before. You can run it on Exadata, which is the super powerful Apex physical server, and cloud services such as AWS. So I've been saying how brilliant Apex is. So how much does this all cost? Well, in fact, it's no cost. It's free to download Apex and it's free to download ORDs. So I'm not really saying Apex is free. I'm saying it's no cost because if you run it on premise, then you're already paying for your database license. If you run it on the cloud, well, it's bundled into your cloud cost. However, you can run this for free on the autonomous always free and your choice of ATP or ADW, and it's free for commercial use. The always free doesn't benefit from this scalability of the autonomous databases, however. You can run it on premise. There is a free version of the database, and there's a limit to how much data you can store there. However, that is free and almost fully functional database as well. I mean, almost all the features are available. So that's called the Oracle Database Express Edition, or we call it XE. And there's various official and fan-made containers available with Apex installed in there. And that really is the secret. When I say it's Oracle's best kept low-code secret, that the fact it's free and you can use it and you can build powerful applications with it, that's really worth shouting about. And if anything from this presentation, I want you to be aware about Apex and see how useful and powerful it is. And you should always consider it as well for any data-driven applications, which it really excels at. So some examples of some applications built with Apex. This is ARIA People, and this is the HR tool for the Oracle Corporation. So in all the offices and all the companies, if you want to look up anybody's name, job title, you can search in this box and it will find information about that employee, who's their manager, who's their manager's manager, and so on and so on. There's lots of information in there about user guides, login holidays, time off, that kind of thing. And that gets 46,000 users a day, which is just shows the power of how scalable Apex can be and how it can scale up to these workloads. And it has an average of 1.5 million page views a day, which that's pretty awesome, pretty huge. And I think on one day I've heard that it went over 3 million on a single day. So we generally say if your database power and your license can support that amount of users and amount of load on the database, then so can Apex. Here's an example of the Oracle Store where you can click to buy items, so the software, hardware, and thousands of dollars of products available for purchase. Now, over the past year, we've seen an influx of COVID-19 related Apex applications, and these were built extremely quickly. So in the middle, you're seeing a propagation of coronavirus. So it's showing the areas heavily affected by coronavirus, and there's lots of stats and buttons and navigation options you can click around. There's a Croatian website called For Each Other where you can request help or offer help. And then this page here is a map and an Apex application dedicated to the distribution of personal protective equipment to volunteers, nurses, healthcare officials, and so on. And there's 31 of those, and you can check them out. So you can, in fact, if you go to apex.world, which is a hub of all Apex knowledge, and there's news on there, there's tweets, there's a Slack channel as well, which you can join in and get started. So I encourage you to use that. So Apex, the programming experience is 100% in the web. You can use other tools, but Apex provides enough tools so you never need to leave the web browser. So you develop in the web, you deploy in the web, and your users run in the web as well. It's aimed at the full spectrum from citizen developers who can use the wizards to create some simple applications to get going, or they can team up with a technical developer to create an application together. And it goes full spectrum, right to the code by code, line by line, back-end development. And it also suits front-end developers and database developers as well. And I always find if you get a perfect mix of the front-end and back-end developers, then you're going to get a great Apex application. Okay, so time for a demo. So I want to show you first this. This is a feed about air quality in Warsaw. So I've just actually recently moved to Poland, and before I left the UK, I was advised to look at the air quality when deciding a place to live. And I thought not too much of it, but when I arrived in Poland, people were talking about air quality. So I thought, well, I can build a quick app to visualize this data. Now this comes from this API here. And I'm going to visualize this in an Apex chart. And you can see there's various days and various statistics about the air quality in Poland, in Warsaw specifically. So I'm going to open up Apex here. Now I've signed into my workspace. I've got 200 demo applications in here. So let's create more applications. So I'm going to create a new application from scratch. And I'm going to call it Warsaw Air Quality Log. And I'll have an about page. Let's have some configuration options. Let's be able to change our theme style, and let's do some reporting as well. We'll leave that blank for now, and we'll create an application. So you can see it's very quick to create a basic application, and I could have had more pages in there, or I could have ticked more options. So this is my application, and I've got 15 pages. I can edit them in Page Designer, or I could just run them straight away. So let's run my application. I'll sign into my new application, and that's it. So I've got a navigation bar here. I can sign out. I can click on the About or Help page. I can go to an admin page. Let's change the theme style, because that was one of the options that I decided I wanted to create with my application. And let's have this brownie green theme. And that's it. That's changed the theme style to what I like. Now let's add that web service in. And when I add the web service in, it will be added as a data source, and then I'll build a chart based on that data source. So what I need to do now is go to shared components, which is where the data sources are kept. And then I'm going to go to REST data sources and create a new one. I'm going to create from scratch. Here's my REST endpoint, and just give it a name, air quality. That's the endpoint. So when I say next, it works out what's the base URL, what's the server path. There's no authentication on this. But I could use OAuth 2 or some basic authentication. And then it shows me the data here. So that's looking good. That's looking exactly what I need, to be honest. So let's do it. Let's create a REST data source on that. And then go back to our page 1. And let's start to build that chart. So this is Page Designer. It's telling me it's page 1. I've got save and run buttons. There's a breadcrumb there. Now the chart goes in the content body. So let's create a region. let's give it a name, air quality, and this will be a chart. So something goes red here, so it wants me to fill in some details. Okay, well, I know one of the columns is called min, so that will be my series name. It's not based inside the database, it's based on this REST source. It's called air quality. And the label, let's have day, and let's use the value as min. And before we run it, let's duplicate it, and let's show max as well. And choose that to be max. And I'd like a type of chart. Bar chart is probably not the best. Let's choose line with area. And we'll stack the two series together. So we'll save that into database and then see how page 1 looks. So you can see there the various levels of air quality, and there's various days there in March, and you can see its highs there, it's 43, and then lows there is 21. So this is a nice visualization of a week's worth of data there. Okay, so what more can we add here? I'd like to add some kind of log, so I can log my own observations of the air quality. So we can do that back in Apex if I go to create a table. So I'll need to create a table now to store my own observations. So I'll go to utilities and use this quick SQL. So it's a really quick way of recording air quality. So let's just call it Matt's air quality observations. And let's give it a column. So we'll call it log date and log comments, maybe another one, log notes. So if I do generate, it's worked out that date is the date, correct. Comments, let's have 4,000 characters, which is the max is for an oracle column, which is a variable string. Let's have some more. Let's have some audit columns. Yep, so I've got an audit now of who created it and who updated my record. Let's save that script, give it the same name. Okay, let's call it Matt Air. Save that. Let's run it now. So this is actually creating a table in the database. I'm going to run. Hopefully no errors. Great, no errors. So let's go back to my application, which is this one, and we're going to create a page, 2 pages in fact. So I want a report with a form attached to it. I'm going to call it air quality log and the form name the same name. Now page normal or mud. I like mud. You know, this is a mud. I quite like that. Let's go next. Let's have a navigation down the left-hand side so I can easily get to the page. I'll show you that in a moment. What table is it? Well, it's that one. Do I want all my columns in the report? Well, I don't really want all my audit columns, so I'll send those backwards. And I'm just going to run through the wizard, choosing a primary key column. A primary key column is used for updates mostly, but also used for deletes, inserts. And going to create that pair of pages. And now we're up in Page Designer now. So in fact, I'll just run it straight away and we'll start recording some data. So my observation for today would be it's cloudy and hazy. And the log notes were recorded at night. And you can see out the window behind me, it's nighttime. Let's create a record there. Let's do one more. Let's do one for yesterday. I forgot to mark my observations yesterday. So it's a clear day, no problems. Let's press create, and now we've got 2 records in there. Now this is an interactive report, so I can search for certain words, like the word day appears in there, or I could search for the word hazy. And I imagine if I had thousands of records in here, I could easily search for things, you know, and I could download the report in various formats here. You can read those there. You can do a chart, group by, pivot. I can have it highlighted. I can have it control breaked, records the page. I'll show you a quick control break actually. Let's add 2 for the same day. Let's say it's night, and yeah, no problems again. So if I have a control break, I'll do it the quick way. By log date, you can see I've got logs for this date and logs for that date. It's a nice and easy way of formatting data. And remember, all this is for the user's control now. And the user can actually save that as their own private report, or as a developer, I can save it for everybody as the primary report or an alternative report. So for example, if I call that an alternative report by date, now I've got 2 reports. I've got the primary report there, which is the list of data, which I need to reset. And I can go between the 2 now. How handy is that? And I've got an edit to modify the data, and it closes that down and refreshes the report behind. Now this button here, create, I'd quite like that on my chart. So I can quick edit that button here, and then I can right click, copy it to another page. It's the dashboard, it's page 1, the home page. And then it's going to ask me where on the page I want to put it. I want to put it in the air quality region. And let's go to page 1. And that region button, let's put it in the edit position. And in fact, let's say it's text with icon. And which icon do I want? Well, it's something to do with logs or notes. I wonder if there's an icon. Let's choose notebook. And in fact, I want the icon on the left-hand side of the label, not the right-hand side. So we'll give page 1 a run, and there we go. So we've got our air quality chart here, and at any time I can press the create button and add some logs for the day. So in fact, instead of typing in the log date every time, maybe we can put a default on there. So let's try a default. Let's try a SQL expression. Let's do to char sysdate, which is system date. And in fact, I want the log comments and notes to be a required field, required floating, and I actually want some validation on there as well. So let's go back to our report and run it from there. Create, aha, I've got today's date in there, automatically populated. If I try to create now, I've got some validation going on. So I need to fill in some fields here before it will actually save to the database. So that was a really quick tour of Apex. Let's just go back to the slides and we'll finish off. So it's extremely powerful as Apex. There's so many components available, from charts to different types of reports, to mobile layouts, to REST web services, to faceted search, card regions, and more. Okay, so in the roadmap, this is Oracle's roadmap. They say there's going to be more on runtime application customizations, more analytics and machine learning. There's going to be a process model in there. There's going to be some support for MySQL. So MySQL is another database which Oracle have acquired. So Oracle have acquired MySQL, and you've probably heard of Java. They've acquired Java as well. There will be a native map component. So as you saw from those COVID applications, there was a map in each and every one of those. Those were probably achieved by JavaScript or a map plugin, which there are several available. Now Apex will have its own map components. There'll be additional Oracle Jet-based components. So Jet is a JavaScript framework. It stands for JavaScript extension toolkit. And that is definitely not low code. That is definitely lines of code. But check it out if that's your thing and you're a JavaScript programmer, because it's got some very nice data visualizations in there. And Apex is taking advantage of that. So there'll be expanding capabilities in that database cloud service dedicated for Apex. There'll be a REST service catalog, for example, REST calls. So the air quality one that I used, I had to Google around for it and sign up for an API key. Now there will be a catalog of ones you can choose which are freely available. There's more integration with the developer lifecycle and improved printing for PDFs and static layouts of documents as well. So that's it. So thank you very much. If you want to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter address is in the bottom left-hand corner. My email address is also there. And come visit us at Pretius.com. You can follow us on Facebook or on Twitter. Thank you very much for your time.